Hey Stargazers, welcome back. My name is Nick, I'm a theaters manager at the Adler Planetarium, and you're watching Skywatch Weekly. If you've been watching these videos for a while, I hope you've begun to realize there's a lot more to see in the sky than what you might have thought. And that's especially true with the planets. Even from areas with a lot of light pollution, there's more than you might expect that can be seen just with your eyes. That's why I'm especially excited this week and next to be talking about two planets that are going to be with us for the rest of the year in the evening sky. So let's dive right in with the largest planet in our solar system, Jupiter. So we're going to start off facing south, and we'll slowly turn over here to the southeast. We're looking here at about 10 p.m. Jupiter right now is by far the brightest object in the evening sky besides the moon. And by 10 p.m. it is well above the horizon in the southeast, along with Saturn. Both of these are at their best this month for 2020. So I encourage you to get out and take a look. Jupiter and Saturn right now are nearing what's called opposition, the point where a planet is opposite the sun in the sky. As we know, Earth not only spins, it also orbits the sun, along with the other planets like Jupiter. But the planets don't all orbit at the same speed. Those closer to the sun go faster than the ones farther out. So in the time it takes Earth to orbit 12 times, 12 years, Jupiter only goes around once. So every year you might say Earth catches up with Jupiter and passes it. And at one point it will be essentially in between the sun and Jupiter. So Earth will be closest to Jupiter at that point, and Jupiter will appear brightest in the sky and will be giving its best views through a telescope. Jupiter will reach that point officially early next week, so right now is really the best time to see Jupiter. Saturn, which we'll talk about next week, is reaching its opposition about a week later. So both of these planets are pretty close in the sky right now. Jupiter is much brighter than Saturn. It's not only larger, but it's also a lot closer to Earth. At opposition, you can expect a planet to rise basically at sunset and set pretty much at sunrise. That's very similar to a full moon. So 90 minutes or so after sunset, Jupiter should be very obvious in the southeast. So looking just with your eyes, Jupiter will be a very bright point of light. If you think back to how Venus looked after sunset earlier this spring, that's kind of how Jupiter's going to look now, just blazingly bright in the southeast. You won't be able to see any detail or anything more than a point of light without optical aid, but it's still a beautiful sight, and it's going to be sticking around throughout the rest of the summer and into the fall. You can keep track of Jupiter and also Saturn and see how the sky changes during the year. Okay, so if you have binoculars, what can you expect to see? Now, it depends a little bit on the size of the binoculars, but overall, you should expect to see some of Jupiter's moons. It might help to brace yourself against a wall or light pole so the view doesn't shake too much. There are 4 moons that should be easily seen through binoculars. These are called the 4 Galilean moons. They're named after Galileo, a pretty famous guy, who first used a telescope to look at the night sky and discovered all sorts of things like craters in the moon and these moons of Jupiter. And by the way, since Galileo's day, we've discovered a lot more moons around Jupiter. The current total count is 79. If you could see the orbits of these moons with the naked eye, it would cover a huge part of the sky, about 15 times the apparent size of the full moon. Now, all these are much smaller than the Galilean moons, though, so through binoculars, just count on those 4: Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. So what if you have a telescope? Jupiter is one of the best views through a small telescope, along with the moon and the planet Saturn. Even a pretty small scope will start to show the disk of Jupiter, along with some detail there, like the cloud bands. With larger scopes and better magnification, you'll begin to see a little bit more detail in the cloud bands, the disks of the moons, and also the Great Red Spot. Jupiter is what we often call a gas giant, so we're looking at cloud tops of Jupiter as we observe it. The color differences in the bands are caused by differences in the height of those cloud tops and also what the clouds themselves are made of. Jupiter spins once every 10 hours, so which side is facing Earth changes pretty rapidly. If one night the Great Red Spot isn't visible, there's a good chance it'll be visible over the next couple of nights. Let's talk about that Great Red Spot. It's basically a huge storm on Jupiter. It's been raging for hundreds of years. At its largest observed size, it was about 3 times the diameter of Earth, although it's quite a bit smaller right now, a little bit less than twice Earth's diameter. So let's talk about the size of Jupiter, because if one storm there is bigger than Earth, the rest has to be huge. Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system. It's much bigger than Earth. More than 10 Earths could fit across the face of Jupiter. And the planet is more than 300 times the mass of Earth. Using a telescope for Jupiter also brings some new things to look for with the Galilean moons. You can begin to see the disk of those moons with a larger scope and very still skies. You might also start to see when shadows of the moons cross the cloud tops of Jupiter. It's a stunning view and really gives a three-dimensional feel to what you're seeing through the eyepiece. You can see a black circle slowly moving across the cloud tops. Occasionally you get 2 shadows at the same time of 2 different moons, and fairly often 2 of the moons, especially Io and Europa, go into the shadow of Jupiter. And you can watch the moon fade rapidly and disappear. That's visible even through binoculars. Imagine that, watching lunar and solar eclipses happening around another planet. So Jupiter's got a lot to offer. Stunning views, even just with your eyes, and a whole wealth of stuff to look for with binoculars or a small telescope. So my challenge for you this week, just get out there and see Jupiter. Saturn's there too, we'll cover that next week. You got a pair of planets hanging out together, unmissable and visible even through the worst light pollution. It should be a beautiful view. Well, that's what we've got for you this week. Don't forget to subscribe and look up with us on Wednesdays. Also follow the Adler Planetarium on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.